welcome to the coaching game. Look who's here. I'm Laurie Lawson and
It's Terry Yoffe, coaches creating change. Isn't that, get that out of the way. Isn't that great? Here we are into fall. I don't know what happened to the year. I have no clue.
I don't know. And I keep going, when I'm writing the email, I'm going, enjoy the last days of summer. And it's going, where did summer go? What did we have a summer? I don't know. But
I don't know either.
time is moving on and change is happening every day, whether we want it to or not. And Terry and I decided, well, what about if we're stuck? What about if we're feeling like change is all around us, but we're not really, we're stuck. And so we started talking about it and saying, well, how do we help our clients get unstuck? So we thought maybe that would be a good topic for today. Get
Yeah,
unstuck and launch into fall and then the winter.
right. I think that it's people are operating without a roadmap. They're looking for, as I say, welcome to the new normal. What's your plan B and how are you going to move forward? And that can get people stuck. Well, let me see. I don't have I don't have my playbook. Let me open it up. Let me see what's going on. But if that's not there, then people start to panic. They start to get fearful. People don't like change, and we are definitely in the midst of a lot of change. So how do we work with clients, even if they're stuck? How do they move forward?
You know what you just brought to mind by saying that? It's like, I think some people are just like, can't wait to return to normal. And they're thinking normal is the way it used to be. And so if you're waiting for that, you're definitely going to be stuck, because I don't think we're going back to the old normal. I think we have to create our own normal. And that's
Right.
a good point. I mean, even just thinking that, okay, my playbook, I'm waiting for those plays to come back into into effectiveness. Like they say, oh, if you hang on to fashion long enough, it'll come around again. It may, but that you can't wait. You can't not wear clothes until the fashion comes back. So I think that's a good perspective that you just put on it, Terry. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if clothes come back, they're different.
Exactly.
They're not exactly the same. They may come back where, let's just say, hippie, that flower look. There's going to be an
You mean the one I have on today?
Oh yeah, right. Well, no,
Okay.
There you go. That's great.
Okay.
But it's going to look different because you're going to put it with other things. So, and the 70s, the 60s, the people wearing that kind of clothing today are not that generation. Pretty much.
And even if they are, you might not be able to fit into those clothes now because you're growing, so it's pretty interesting. It's like,
Right.
So
yeah, it's we talked about this before we got on. David Hall, he is the preeminent futurist, and when I saw him in 18, he talked about all of this disruption that was going to be significant for the 20s, which we started to see. And his book, The Shift Age, and how do we live with all of this disruption? And with disruption comes change and evolution and transformation. And that's where we're all at, with the disruption, with our changing, and even being stuck. Stay stuck. However, you're going to have to figure out how to make changes, even if you're feeling stuck. So, you're not stuck in quicksand. You can move around. But as to your point, Laurie, if you are looking in the rearview mirror, you're waiting for the 2nd Avenue trolley to come on down and pick you up. That ain't ever going to happen again, ever.
Good point. And but you do have the Q line now, so I mean, you got the cool subway. But
right.
but don't wait for the trolley. Just
Right,
advance and jump on the subway or not. But
right,
that's your choice.
exactly.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because I think, for the first couple of months of the pandemic, we all went around, oh my God, woe is me. When will this be over? And now I think most of us are at the point where it's like, this, it will be over. Please let it be over at some point. But there have changes have been made. Changes have been made, and you can fight them, or you can, adapt them to your need, or you can just blindly jump in. So I think we're talking to the people who are not still fighting. It's like, oh, I don't want to change. I want it to be just the way it was. I think we're talking to people who really know they have to change, but are not sure how to do it.
Yeah, how do you do it? I think I told you I did this webinar on, welcome to the new normal, what's your plan B, and how are you going to move forward? And I think the things I looked at was, it's about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Really figuring out how to be uncomfortable and going with that, because we're all uncomfortable. And if you're going to wait to get comfortable, that ain't going to happen. So it's first doing that and realizing, okay, I'm not alone in this. I can speak to other people. How did they get unstuck? You can get some ideas from others. What have they done to get unstuck? And also to look at and reflect on what happened to you during this last year. How did you reflect? How did you change? We all had to make changes. We did Zoom, we did this, we did that. We didn't have an office. We had to figure out our kids. We had to figure out all the parents. We had to figure out, how do we get a home office? How do we communicate? So we had to make changes already in how we move forward in all walks of life. So how do you take that learning and help yourself get unstuck?
Great point. Great point. Yeah, because we learned how to shop online more than we wanted, probably. We learned how to, adjust our mask, and all the things that we had to do. And so now, I don't know, are we taking this a step forward and going, okay, rather than say we got to get change, it's like, well, where are the opportunities for change? And how do we, I think you used the word courage. How do we get the courage up to do that? So what is the tool that you use with your clients or your businesses, whichever one?
I help people try to look at and identify, where are they feeling stuck? If they were, where? Is it in whatever area? Is it their work? Is it they want to go back to whatever it is? I can't say exactly. And then it's pinpointing, well, what's keeping you stuck? What makes you feel that you're stuck? And then it could also be a question as simple as, when in your past did you feel stuck about something yet had the courage to make a change?
Right. And what worked for you? What particular quality did you have that worked for you to get you to that success? Yeah.
Exactly. So you can always go back and go into their past and look at, with questions, a lot of questions, where, what's one thing that they did when they had this kind of an experience that helped them move forward. And you can tap into so much. We have so many resources within us that we forget about.
Yeah. Also, I know you did that great, I think you were the very first person to do it for ICF, where you had a snippet of coaching. I forget what that was called, where you demonstrated some coaching. with one of your clients?
Oh, experience coaching.
Yeah.
The thing
And
they did that series, experience coaching.
right, I think you were the premier
First,
one.
right.
Yes. And
Right.
you gave your client a different perspective, which I thought was brilliant. You said, okay, if you were on a chessboard, what piece would you be? And so it just
Well,
gets them out of the box, that new perspective. And that was really quite clever
well,
what you did.
it was that, but it was more about the chessboard. Who were the players on
Mhm.
the chessboard that they were ignoring? Or they knew were there, but they weren't giving them as much credence as they should have. So the chessboard was about, and I just made that up out of the blue.
Because I asked you, I said, do you play chess? She goes, no. I said,
It was
what would
just
make you think of that? I love it.
yeah, that how was she going to maneuver her players and look at who needed her attention in her company?
Well, it's kind of like taking the focus off you, because like you said before, we are all in this together. And if we haven't figured that out in the last year, then you have not been paying attention. But one of the favorite things I like to do, and it's so simple, because my clients go, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I just don't know. So I said, okay, if you were talking to your mother or your husband or your sister, what would you tell them? Because we are so good at giving advice, except to ourselves. We never,
Right.
and that just takes them out of their box and puts it into someone. And then the answer is quite simple. Well, of course, I tell them to quit that crazy job and go do what they really want to do, or whatever it is. And so it's changing the perspective. And I think that's what the chessboard did. It's like, oh, it's not just me. I'm along with all these other pieces on the board. And what is my relationship in that? So it's just giving a different perspective, because if you're in the hamster wheel and you're going around and around, you know how to
Nothing
do that.
changes. You don't
Yeah,
get a different view. You don't get a different
exactly.
view. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's having somebody change a perspective, or a question that they can go back to their what I call bankable nuggets from the day they started working or whatever. You accrue all of this knowledge, all of this experience, and we forget about it. But if you
Yes.
remind someone, when was the last time you took a leap of faith? When was the last time you stood up and you didn't know something, but you you had the courage to move forward?
And you know what? It's not only
So
forget about it, it's we take it for granted. I remember when I had my geriatric care business, and a lot of that is case notes and invoicing and things like that, and communicating with families. And there was another caseworker who had her own business, and she was like at least 7 months behind in invoicing because she didn't know how to write. And I'm going, and
you know how to what,
to
right?
write, yeah. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm taking for granted that I know how to write, and I even like it, I don't mind. So she could not do it. And so she spent her time going, who's going to write this up and how am I going to get it in? And so we take our skills for granted. So sometimes it's good to just go over with clients, what are your talents? What talents are you using that you're not even aware of,
Right,
and give
exactly.
people another perspective again.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I have a client, I've been working with him for years, and he was in some areas of the fashion industry. And now he's doing contracting, not in
Mm.
the city any longer. And we've been working on what are his credentials. And he forgot so much of what he did that we had to go back and look at it and then move it forward to be relevant for him in the business he's actually in, which they are kind of kissing cousins in a way. So it's
Yeah.
reminding clients of all of us, who are we? Who were we? What do we forget about? Even in our lives, people I am sure have taken risks. Maybe it wasn't in business, maybe it was in their personal life, that they did something that was so out of character for them, but yet they did it. Well, that took courage.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do you tap into that? and and create a new playbook, a new roadmap. What will that look like?
That's interesting. I just heard a great quote the other day. God, me and my quotes, but I never know where they came from. Courage is fear walking. It's like, take that fear and move it anyway, go ahead
Right.
and do your
That's right.
thing.
That's exactly right.
What comes to mind is, and it was trying to think what precipitated this. There was when suddenly there was a lot of you have visitors.
Oh, no, the fire engine, I forgot to close my window.
Oh, that's okay. We know you're safe and protected. That's good.
Sorry about that.
If I see smoke, I'll let you know. How's that?
Thank you.
But when veterans suddenly were coming back into society, it was like, okay, well, they don't know anything, but I don't know anything but how to, be a soldier and everything. And so taking the skills that you have and transferring them to the world that we are now in, God only knows what they do with it right now. But it would be like what you've done before. How can you use that skill to adapt to whatever's going on today? And that's another way to get stuck. It's like, I don't know, maybe are we saying that if you're stuck, write down all your, I don't want to say your skills. I don't want to say talents because people will judge themselves as not a talent. Write down all your skills and then see where can I apply that,
Right.
So I like that idea.
It's also about having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. The fixed mindset was what you were talking about. Well, I'm going to sit here and wait. It's going to come back. It's like, who moved my cheese, right? Going down that same path because there once was cheese there, and you God darn know there's going to be cheese.
There's got to be cheese somewhere, yeah.
But instead of trying to go down another avenue, so a growth mindset is about expansion. It's about resilience. It's about flexibility. It's about adaptability, which are key words today, versus that fixed mindset that keeps looking in the rearview mirror and keeps saying, I'm going to look in the rearview. It's coming back. It's coming back, but it's not coming back. It's the whole business landscape, the VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's changed dramatically and will continue. I really don't know what's in store for us, but business is not as usual. Meeting clients, if you can't go to see them, then you got to figure out another way to go see them or get to them.
Yeah. And I think the VUCA that you're talking about, the volatile and all that, ambiguous, I think it's not that it's going to change. I think that it's becoming enhanced. It's like, this is the normal we're talking about. Insanity, chaos.
Right. For now, and somewhere out of all of that will come a new definition of things. I would venture to say by probably 2030.
Okay, wow, that's a long definition, but okay.
It's in 7.5 years, 8 years, it's going to look, the landscape is going to look different. I don't know what it's going to look like. I really don't.
No, I mean,
technology and a lot of other things, I don't know what's going to be relevant at that moment.
We were talking about maybe going on vacation, before the end of 2021. And we don't know what that's going to look like. Every day it changes. One day we are allowed in a country, the next day we're not. So you just don't know. I hope that with that comes, okay, the awareness that whatever you do from here on out, it has to be flexible. As you say, it has to have a plan B, maybe a C and a D too. Because there are no stable rules anymore.
No. And I call it a strategic resilience. I saw that word and I like it. What that means is have a plan, move forward. Nobody's looking 5 years down the road. People are looking a year, even maybe 2. That's it. Nobody's got this 10-year plan that they used to have. It's a short plan, but have a plan, move forward with it, and be resilient enough to make a right turn if you have to and pivot. if you see it's not going, don't have that fixed mindset. Oh, it's got to be this way and I'm going to do it. Have that flexibility, that growth mindset that says, gee, this isn't working. I have to tweak it. That's, that's where we are and headed. Who makes a 10-year plan anymore?
I hope no one, because it's futility. It's like, who knows? I hope it works, but I don't think it will. I just I had a great guest on my show actually last week. Tracy McDonald, she and Ann Papayotti wrote this fantastic book called The Gift of Shift. And one of the gift of shift. Yeah.
Oh,
shift. Yeah. And one of the things she was talking about acronyms and emojis, and we all know FOMO, fear of missing out, but they had a chapter called JOMO. And it's like, what the heck is JOMO with a J? And it's joy of missing out. And it's like, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, so that didn't work, but that leaves me free to do something else, to go explore, to find out. So it's and that's kind of like getting stuck. Okay, getting stuck means you're not in the same old pattern you were. So create a new road, build a new bridge, whatever you're going to do. So if we could just shift, using that word again, if we could just shift our mindset to go, wow, this is fantastic. As opposed to, oh my God, what am I going to do? The freedom that we all had last year to just hang out with family and read. And that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah, I think everyone had the ability last year, even into this year, to really reflect on their lives. I mean, you're hearing about the Great Resignation. People are leaving jobs. They got some epiphanies that they just didn't want to be there anymore. That, was it worth climbing the ladder, getting that corner office? What did it mean? What were they giving up?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are leaving their jobs, and that they're looking for new jobs. They're looking for, it's an employee marketplace. Employees are demanding, talk about change, demanding benefits, emotional compensation, being free to work part-time at home. I mean, they are ruling the roost. So the whole world is trying to get unstuck from the norms that we were used to. And this pandemic has been able to uproot that thinking.
I think CBS, no, you're right. I think CBS News had a special where it was like, for the first time, workers are ruling the marketplace, and they've done what legislation and Congress and no one else could do. They're raising the minimum wage because they're in demand, and it's about time.
You're right.
But so all of that stuff that we used to believe, it can be done, and that's people getting unstuck. That's people.
You're right. And if you take it to a bigger, thank goodness, we look at who the game changes were in this whole disruption. The three biggest: Amazon, Airbnb, and Uber. People in this pandemic, thank goodness, we had Amazon. We weren't stuck in buying clothes, getting groceries, getting prescriptions. We could get what we wanted. So if you think about, people didn't have cars, they could call Ubers. Hotels, I'm sure, are suffering. People are doing Airbnbs. So they were almost the leaders in getting unstuck in a way that we can all follow. Maybe not that magnitude, but this is the time of letting loose, getting unstuck, reaching out, reaching up. Companies are looking for talent, keeping talent and getting new talent, talent retention.
And companies have realized that, you know what, we don't need a 16 office suite.
Exactly.
Our
Getting
people are doing
unstuck.
great. Yeah, exactly. Our people are doing pretty good doing
So
from home, and we can have a meeting room somewhere when they can come in.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. I think that even though we came here with just people getting unstuck, if we look at the country or the world, we've been getting unstuck in a very crazy time because there had to be different roadmaps. And that's what made some of these three big game changer companies look around and say, where can we make a difference?
Wow. And you know what? When we're talking about companies, look at I'm trying to think of a few that failed because they stayed in the same rut. I'm going to say Montgomery
Some of
Ward.
the
That was way
automotive
back then.
companies
Yeah, yeah. And that was
that,
the smaller companies that didn't really realize that, whoa, the internet is going to be the main source of your sales. So they
right,
didn't really, they got stuck
look
and
at the stores,
they
Lord
didn't
and
change it.
Taylor, Neiman Marcus,
Right, right. Yeah.
some of these huge stores have gone out because you know what? People don't ever have to leave their house ever. They
That's
can
kind
get
of sad, but I'm into it now. It's like,
no, they
no,
can
I'm okay.
even, I mean, you wouldn't meet people face to face, but you can have lively, look at us, we're doing, who thought back whenever that we weren't going to the studio?
Exactly, exactly. And that's been, and I'll say it again, that's been a blessing because you and I can get together and this way, I mean, and we'd love to get together at well, I don't know if the studio, but at least for lunch.
Have gotten together,
We've done that. So that's good. But
right?
yeah, so it's like getting stuck is, I think if I could say one thing to be helpful, it would be getting stuck can be a blessing. And if you're stuck, that means the road that you're usually on may not be available. So go find a different one,
Right.
go
And
find a
right,
different.
it might be, or it might need some tweaks.
Yeah,
What you're
you might have
doing.
to dig out a little, but you got to make it wider or you got to take a branch, you got to fix it
No,
because the old road is not going to get you where you want to go.
no, and we're all being asked to step up and to
Yeah.
figure out our own roadmaps. Because most people like a roadmap, if I'm a structured person also. However, it's different. It's a different roadmap. And, it's asking us to tap into our creative abilities, which are there
Yeah.
on our business acumen. We're still the same people. It's just figuring out different ways to be that person and what kind of an environment.
And I think in our last seconds here, if we had to
Ooh,
say something, it would be if you are truly stuck, get a coach. We do
get
this all day
a
long.
coach,
Get a
get a
coach
coach.
and keep it
Absolutely.
moving, keep it moving.
Right. It's about making, why Rahm Emanuel said, why let a good crisis go to waste?
Exactly. I love it. Let's leave it on that one. Thank you so much, Terry.
Thank
As
you,
always,
Laurie.
I learned